Your bell work for today is the question, how would you define spirituality versus religion? How are they different? Today's lesson is called The Development of Ancient Afro-Eurasian Religions. It's actually a new unit for us, right? So this is the introduction lesson for that unit. In this unit, we're going to challenge ourselves to explore how human beings developed religions out of spiritual beliefs by pursuing questions of continuity and change. So questions of continuity is how are things going to continue as they are and how are things going to change? A lot of the time people use spirituality and religion or religiousness interchangeably, but they actually do have different meanings. Spiritual beliefs are individual practices about the meaning of life and one's purpose in existence, right? Those are your like personal beliefs. But religious beliefs are a set of organized beliefs and practices, right? Like kind of like an understood rule among these groups, usually shared by a community or group. They have like a place of worship, there's like a community there. And they also are exploring the meaning of life and one's purpose in existence, right? Similar end goals, but just different in how they practice. For this unit, again, we're going to have a claim. I will caveat by saying that this one is a little different than what we've been doing. Instead of choosing to support or challenge a claim that I give you at the end of the unit, we're going to be writing a thesis answering this prompt. And the prompt is, to what extent or how much did the aims and influence of religion change over the course of the ancient period? So you're going to argue that it either changed a little bit, not at all, a lot, completely, right? To what extent is how much? So as we're going through these sources in this unit, I want you to keep in mind that we're looking at how much is it changing. Source one, I'm going to read it to you. So if you have your notes on paper or if you're taking notes on paper or on your phone or whatever, if you can listen to this and take notes, that would be good. If not, you can just pause and come back. But we are just going to jot down our initial observations. What do you see, think, and wonder? We're going, again, like we did last unit, a little bit back to those roots of when we're looking at our source, just jotting down our original ideas, okay? So anything you hear, really, what does it make you think about? Do you have like a consensus? And what does it make you think or question or wonder? Okay. So source one is adapted from Morris Jastrow, The Religion of Babylonian and Assyria, 1898. So it is an older text. It says the Babylonian religion in the oldest form known to us may be best described as a mixture of local and nature cults. It's a shocking word, but think about it. It is over 100 years ago, so it's used a little differently then. Starting with the phase of religious beliefs known as animism, Babylonians ascribed life to the phenomena of nature, to trees, stones, and plants, as well as such natural events as storms, rain, wind, and to the stars. Not celebrities, the ones in the sky. Babylonians would be led to invoke an infinite number of spirits who were supposed to be the embodiment of life that manifested in such diverse manners. So spirits for all these different things. Yet certain spirits were seen as exercising a more decisive influence upon the affairs of man than others. The result of this would be to place greater importance on the worship of the sun and the moon and the water and natural phenomena as rain, wind, and storms, with their accompaniment of thunder and lightning, as opposed to the countless spirits believed to be lurking everywhere. So we're jotting down what do we see, think, and wonder. If you need a moment to finish doing that, go ahead and pause the video and come back. Question one wants us to observe and analyze, so we're going a little bit deeper than those initial observations. How does source one describe Babylonian religious beliefs during the animism phase? So that source we just read, how are they describing their religious beliefs? Take a moment, pause the video, and come back to me when you're ready. All right, source two. Again, as I read this to you, feel free to go ahead and begin jotting down your initial observations. Source 2 is an excerpt from Craig Lockhart. It's Societies, Networks, and Transitions, A Global History. This one was written in 2015. He says, the rise of agriculture and then cities gradually transformed the belief that nature was alive with spiritual forces, animism, to more systematic theologies and organized religious observances. These beliefs and practices gave order and meaning to people's lives and may have promoted cooperation and a sense of community. Full-time religious specialists evolved, often replacing the shamans, the part-time spiritual leaders associated with earlier times. With the rise of agriculture in larger communities, a priestly class was seen as able to communicate with the gods and interpret their will. Because they provided essential services such as writing or calculating the time of annual floods and staffing temples serving thousands of believers, these priests were the first social group to be freed from direct subsistence labor. The only thing I will tell you for this is just quickly go over subsistence labor in that last sentence, because if you don't know what it means, it doesn't really make sense. So it's saying now with these changes, we have priests who are full time, and for the first time ever, these individuals are not obligated to participate in subsistence labor, meaning they are not really doing any other job. They're not providing food or like farming labor. They're not blacksmiths. They're not fixing things. They are solely focused on their priestly duties, and they're taken care of in other ways. So other people are growing their food and providing for them. Take a moment to finish writing down your observations. If you're done, you can go ahead and go forward with me. Otherwise, pause the video. All right. So question 2 says, according to source 2, how did the religious beliefs change as agriculture and cities grow? So you are essentially summarizing the changes we just read about. Okay, so we have talked about this in the past, but when I have embedded videos in the YouTube video, you can't play them. It doesn't work right. So I need you to pause this video and go play the secondary link. It's a 3-minute video on the Tower of Babel. It's on your Canvas page, just right beneath where you clicked this link. Then come back. Okay, so number 3 says, how might the development of religious beliefs and practices affect how society and space were organized? And before you answer this one, just take a moment and think about, we had an entire 9 weeks on geography, and one of those units in that period was specifically about spatial organization or spatial reorganization. And just to jog your memory, because it's been a little while, this is like, how are cities or even countries organized, or why are they organized the way that they are? So if you remember, first we looked at like London and its winding roads, and then we looked at Dubai, which is a newer city that didn't have these historical sites that they were building roads around, and in Dubai's roads were very straight, right? So very different organization within those cities based on when they were built, really. And then we looked at Brazil, and we talked about how Brazil's capital had once been like very congested, and it got too populated, and it was really hard for these politicians and people who worked for the government to get things done. So they moved the entire capital to the interior, A, to spur development there, but B, because they could organize and plan that city where it worked well for them, where all of their government buildings were near each other, right? So thinking about how cities are organized, or countries or states or any kind of area, what might the development of religious beliefs and practices affect how space in general was organized? How is that going to change it? Take a moment if you need to. All right, so before the creation of larger communities, before we had these large cities, why would it have been difficult for a segment or portion of the population, so let's say like if it's a village of 20 people, why would it be difficult for one of those people to serve as a first full-time priest, right? Or even if it's a village of 200 people, why might it be hard for them to have a couple priests who are not doing other jobs? All right. You're going to move on to the independent reading. This reading is linked on the Canvas page. You're going to read independently, and as you read, you'll see that this article talks about the creation myth and explains what the organized religion looked like in ancient Mesopotamia. You can text mark as you read, although if you're doing it on the computer, then you don't have to. It's a little harder. Some of you have the ability to highlight, and that would be helpful, but I want you to look for evidence on how the cities would have transitioned. So what spatial organization or reorganization are we seeing from when their beliefs were spiritual and nature focused towards this more organized and widely practiced religion? So read the article. It says on your notes that you specifically, I'm just going to read it to you. Draw 2 cities. This is what you're going to do when you're done reading. One to represent what those Afro-Eurasian cities might have looked like before they had organized religion. And then you're going to draw a second one to depict what the cities would have looked like once they did have practiced organized religion. Your drawings must communicate that you understand both the spatial differences, like the actual way the cities are organized, and differences in their beliefs. So use symbols to show me that you understand there's a difference. You must use evidence from the notes in our text, okay? These are due, actually I'm going to extend it because in first period today it took a little longer than we expected. So I'm going to give you an extra day. So these are due by Tuesday, February 2nd by midnight. Bye. Have a great day.